The children of our nation know little to nothing about 9/11, but the Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute is righting this wrong by helping teachers educate kids in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their nonfiction, first-person accounts are told through videos and the Discovering Heroes book series. The Institute offers full, scripted curriculum units with background for teachers, a speakers bureau for classrooms, a mobile exhibit that's an interactive museum with 9/11 artifacts and FDNY guides. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome, everybody, on this Thursday night from Key Largo, Florida. My life is so much better than yours. I went wave running today. First time in years. These things, 45 miles an hour on the Long Island Expressway or Jersey Turnpike, not that fast. 45 miles an hour on a wave runner with a 12-year-old on the back screaming, fast. So if you go to my Twitter account, at Joe Concha TV, you will see me in action, which basically is just me pulling the throttle and going straight. But still, the weather is quite nice down here. The water is quite blue. And I'll be back next week. I land on Saturday and then Sunday, apparently, in New York, New Jersey. Nice little 6-inch snowstorm's going to hit. So talk about waking up to reality. That's going to be the case. But good to get away for a bit. I'm still doing the show, of course, because my commitment isn't to family. It's to my WABC family and to my syndication stations around the country and the world. Or I could just do both, either or. So I follow media a lot, as you know, for Fox News, where I am a contributor, also a senior writer. Sounds so important. I'm a columnist, we'll put it that way, for the Washington Examiner. And the way the media covers things are two ways. Insanely biased, where it's just blatant and out in the open. That's easy to detect. For the average news consumer, it's a lot harder to see the bias of omission because, again, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind, right? So what we're seeing now with the gentleman named Michael Black, okay, who many of you have probably never heard of before, because Michael Black is somebody who jumped in during that shooting in Pawtucket. Pawtucket is a small, sleepy town in Rhode Island. It's where the Red Sox have, I believe they still have, their minor league syndicate there, AAA. And there was a youth hockey game going on. I mean, hockey is, having gone to school in Boston for a year in New England, it is huge up there. So it's a very big deal as far as when you go to a youth hockey game, the stands are very, very full, right? And in this case, we had a man who thinks he's a woman, also a married man, with kids, decide that, well, he didn't like being picked on anymore and being rejected. So he went in and was there to murder his wife, his kid, and also take out whoever he could in the stands. This is a thing that is happening more and more. We've already had 2 mass shootings in this country this year, which is only 7 weeks old, carried out by trans shooters. Obviously, we had that horrible execution, Utah Valley University, September 10th, Charlie Kirk, where Tyler Robinson, who I guess I have to call him the alleged shooter legally, but let's face it, he did it. He's on video everywhere, basically admitted to it. His father turned him in. So Tyler Robinson, trans-loving guy who had a furry boyfriend, took out Charlie because felt that Charlie was mean to transgenders, when Charlie basically just makes the same argument that I make, which is that if you are a guy, you can't pretend you're a girl and then play against girls in sports because you have a biological advantage the same way you would with steroids. And that should not happen. And Charlie lost his life over having a very common sense opinion that 85% of the American people agree with. Now, what happened in Rhode Island, we had a situation where a man is it's a turkey shoot. As far as he's in the stands, he has a gun, he's shooting at people. And then Michael Black, who's just a parent watching his kid playing hockey, jumps in and is a hero here, along with several others who jumped in a little bit later to help subdue this guy before he shot himself. But here's my problem with what you're about to hear and then what you haven't heard since. All right. But first, I want to give my absolute hat off and then some kiss the ring of Michael Black, because I don't know a lot of people who would do this in this situation, actually engage an active shooter and shut him down. This is cut number 8. Go.
So in the first period, with about 10 minutes left, I felt like I heard 2 large balloons pop in front of me. And when I looked, I couldn't see balloons. Then I heard a third shot. And when I looked around, I saw a hand and a gun being pointed at the family in the second row. I told my wife to run. She was sitting next to me with some friends, and she got out, and I stayed. And as the crowd kind of moved, I got a clear angle at the shooter, and I jumped on the 4th step and leaped at him with my left hand. And in the leap side, I got my hand caught in the gun, held him down, fell on top of him, and then he pushed me off. I had the gun. When he stood up again, my heroes jumped in, and one tried to jump him from the back and from the side. And then eventually he fell to my feet, and we were staring right at each other, and he had a very concerned look on his face and reached into his left pocket and pulled out another gun, and then shot himself.
I mean, that is just one incredible story that Michael Black shared with Lawrence Jones on Fox and Friends earlier this week. Then I look at what we're seeing here as far as media coverage. How many other people, I wonder, and I'm sorry, Michael Black told this story to Lawrence Jones. That was this morning, Thursday morning, excuse me. Now, all of that said, I look at other interviews being conducted by other networks with Michael Black, and I can't find them. I see news reports quoting the Fox News interview, but why isn't the Today Show having Michael Black on their air? Where is ABC's Good Morning America? Where is CBS This Morning? Where's CNN's morning show? MS Now's? Where's Morning Joe? Where are all these people that should be interviewing this guy? Because what he did is just nothing short of one of the most heroic and ballsy things you could possibly do. Unarmed and engaging an armed shooter and disabling his ability to kill anybody else. This guy should be all over the airwaves. And instead, he was on Fox. And that's all I'm seeing as far as like long interviews with this man who deserves every medal that is out there. And that is the bias of omission, folks, because I can guarantee you, if somebody in a red hat that spelled Make America Great Again, MAGA, out on the front of it, carried out this shooting, it would be like the Nancy Guthrie coverage times 100, the coverage that would happen here. But since it's a trans shooter, then suddenly, well, that's not something the media really wants to cover anymore now, do they? Because they don't want to actually lead a narrative that trans shooters may be, something that is a growing trend in this country. And they are. We talked about it yesterday, and we'll talk about it again, as far as just in recent years, the number of trans people that are carrying out mass shootings has jumped exponentially and to the point where it is downright disturbing, and it is absolutely a trend. And Lawrence Jones, the aforementioned on Fox, also said that he believes that trans people should not be able to become trans shooters because, well, maybe you have a mental problem if you decide to change your gender and mutilate yourself, or have it mutilated by a doctor. All right. He's right. Absolutely should not legally be able to own a firearm in any way, shape, or form. You can say, well, what about Second Amendment rights? I'm sorry, if you got a mental illness, all bets are off. And we don't see the New York Times, we don't see the Washington Post giving this guy the type of profiles that he deserves. We just hear about, we move on to Trump, I guess, and how horrible Trump is. But again, Michael Black, bravo to you. Bravo to Fox and Friends. Bravo to anybody who has interviewed Michael Black to tell his story. And everybody else, go after yourselves that you're not covering this story with the scrutiny it deserves and having the broader conversation around should trans people be able to own a gun legally. It's an excellent question, and I think it's rhetorical. We all know the answer. Meanwhile, instead, we have the folks like John Ossoff on Colbert last night. Boy, that show is exciting, isn't it? That is just late night. Johnny Carson, eat your heart out. Letterman, Leno, you guys don't have anything on Colbert because, boy, he brings in easily the most boring people on the planet, politicians you've never heard of, like a senator from Georgia who isn't exactly Mr. Excitement. But that's what Colbert's role is now in his mind. Don't worry about ratings because they suck. And don't worry about entertaining anybody or being funny because, well, you're not if you're Stephen Colbert. Instead, let's have John Ossoff on to have a very serious conversation about not just Donald Trump, but all of you out there that supported Trump in the last election, continue to support him now, supported him in 2016, supported him in 2020. If you support Donald J. Trump, therefore, well, this is all part of a deeper disease of society. You can only get it in the late night comedy that is Stephen Colbert at the Ed Sullivan Theater. This is cut number one. Go.
I think Donald Trump's rise, Donald Trump himself is a symptom of a deeper disease in our society. I mean, how is it that a demagogue who promised to tear it all down was twice elected to the presidency on false promises? And it's because the system really is rigged. He's not unrigging it, he's re-rigging it for himself.
Oh, yeah. That's Dean Martin right there. That's Rickles. I think I broke 2 ribs laughing so hard. That stuff's excellent. Do you hear how stone silent it is in that studio? I mean, what point in life do you have to get to where you stand outside in New York City, Zohran Mamdani's New York City, which is basically the streets and sidewalks are now slush and poop. Honestly, go on social media, put in New York City and poop or other words for poop, and you're going to see it everywhere. You stand outside in that in February, you want to be entertained, and then that's what you got to listen to? Like a really bad version of MSNBC meets C-SPAN? Ew, no thanks. And by the way, Ossoff says, oh, well, Donald Trump ran as a demagogue and had all these broken promises. What broken promises? Did he promise to secure the border? Yeah. Did he promise to take out Iran's nuclear capabilities? Yeah. Did he promise to bring down inflation? Yes, and he has. Are wages up like he promised? Yes. I mean, people, what broken promises? If there's anybody who has fulfilled his campaign promises, it has been Donald Trump. No question about it. And yet here's Ossoff talking about how the supporters are part of a deeper disease where they're just really dumb or delusional people who don't understand what they voted for. No, actually, I think they're getting exactly what they voted for. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Where liberalism is a no-go. The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care. Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So let's do a little compare and contrast, shall we? So as I mentioned earlier in the show, I am in the great state of Florida, 78 degrees, light breeze, no humidity, and the sunsets here are phenomenal here in Key Largo. Now, all that said, you see Florida, just the way it's run, it's a finely tuned machine. And I think that's because of Governor Ron DeSantis, who will be president one day, just like Marco Rubio will, just like J.D. Vance will. I mean, that's a nice little lineup right there. But DeSantis still young, under 50 years old. Marco around my age, a little bit older than 48 years old. And then obviously J.D. Vance only 41 years old. So the bench is very deep for the Republican Party. And it's because mostly DeSantis has a pretty easy campaign to run. You know, obviously running against Trump, not a good idea. Unless you're Donald Trump himself, it just ain't going to work, even if you are almost completely MAGA, as Ron DeSantis is, in terms of the way he runs the state policy, the way he handles the media, you name it. DeSantis is that guy. Now, all of that said, here he is talking about how he plans on slashing Florida property taxes. And let's compare that to another state in New York. I gave away the punchline. Let's compare this to another state in the country that has a very similar population, right? About the same size, all those things. But the approach, let's put it that way, is quite opposite between Florida and New York. Let's do Florida first and Governor DeSantis. Cut number 6, go.
From the property tax situation. It's very important given how that's pinched so many homeowners, particularly our senior citizens who have their homes paid off and they bought it 30 years ago for a certain amount. Now they're being told it's worth so much more and they have to pony up more and more money. It's almost like they have to pay rent to the government just to be able to enjoy their property. And that's wrong. And we need to do something about it.
So property taxes, DeSantis plans on slashing. Budgets here are balanced. The state is seeing a population explosion. And it's not just about coast and climate, right? Coastline and climate, because California has this too, and people are leaving there in droves. It's a matter of, okay, do I want to live somewhere where there are no income taxes? Yes. Where we have a competent governor? Yes. Where law enforcement is respected and therefore they do a phenomenal job. Many of them actually, more and more, I should say, are former NYPD who came down here to work in Florida. So all that said, that's how Florida is going. And that's why now it's basically as red as Alabama. It's never going to go back to being blue again. That we certainly do know. Now, let's listen to Zohran Mamdani and what he wants to do for New Yorkers. And here's the thing. You raise taxes, especially on the so-called rich. Guess where they're going to go? Hint, it starts with an F and ends in Arida. This is cut number 7. Go.
If we do not fix this structural imbalance and do not heed the calls of New Yorkers to raise taxes on the wealthy, this crisis will not disappear. It will simply return, year after year, forcing harder and harsher choices each time. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path. Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control. We would have to raise property taxes.
Moron, it's not fully within your control because you can't prevent people from moving out of the state like millionaires and billionaires and small businesses. And they take all that tax revenue with them. So maybe, I don't know, try cutting spending in areas where you don't need to spend. He will not do that. And look, this is the same guy, by the way, Zohran Mamdani in 2020. You think he's really changed that much in 5-6 years? No. Same guy who said this in cut number 4. Go.
The demand of $1 billion is not because that is the amount of money that will solve everything. It comes out of an understanding that policing is something that does not create safety.
Policing is something that does not create safety. Again, he wanted to defund the police. He is now slashing. This is the one thing he is cutting, slashing budgets to the NYPD. Jessica Tisch, how could you work for this person? Get the hell out of there while you can, because you're going to be working with 2 hands tied behind your back. The one thing that Zohran wants to cut is police because he hates them. Always has, called them anti-queer and racist in the same kind of videos back in 2020. And now the same guy is running New York City. He just does it with a smile and a better social media platform, but nothing else has changed in terms of the core of who this maniac is. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. All right, let's bring in the host of Countdown to Freedom at The Federalist. She is also a gal that you see all over Fox News and CNN. She is Brianna Lyman. She joins us once again on Concha at Night. BL, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am outstanding. So I want to talk to you first about, I should mention to folks out there, you probably already heard, but USA women in hockey defeated Canada. Nice comeback win to win in overtime for a gold medal. Yay, women's hockey. Because you don't hear too many female hockey players bashing the country like we're seeing in some other sports, because hockey players, trust me, they're just built different. My brother worked for the New Jersey Devils for many years. I met these guys. They're not... They're the normies. They're the guys that you really, really root for, and gals, I guess, in this matter, because hockey is a brutal sport. But anyway, Brianna, let's talk about Olympian Eileen Gu, shall we? American-born player relinquishes her U.S. citizenship every few years to go compete for China. Now, wait a minute. You're an American. You live here. You should be obviously representing us in the United States, for the United States, in this case, in Milan, Italy. What is going on with her in terms of a bigger picture, Brianna? What does this say about birthright citizenship and what it means to be an American?
Yeah, and I got to push back, Joe. I wouldn't call her an American. This is someone who was born within the geographical boundaries of America. She has American citizenship, but by no means is she an American because, like you said, she gives up her citizenship to go and win on behalf of China because that's where her allegiance lies, and she cites her heritage. People who come to this country, her parents came here as immigrants, I think in the 1980s. People come to this country and have children and don't teach their children to love America are not necessarily trying to come and make their lives better because they want to enjoy America and make America better. They're just coming to make their own lives better selfishly, and Eileen Gu is the exact representation of that. And you constantly hear from a lot of rhinos and on the people on the left saying that, well, immigrants are coming here to make a better life for themselves. And it seems to be like, yeah, they're doing it for themselves, but not for the country. You take Eileen Gu, she's making her life better for herself. She gets these multi-million brand deals because she's working with China. The Chinese Communist Party floods her with money, but she's not trying to help the United States. She's actually actively working against the United States. There was a TikToker recently, I think she's Mexican, and she says that nobody comes here for the culture. We have a better culture. We have better music, everything at home in Mexico. We come here because of the economic opportunities. So many immigrants treat America as merely an economic opportunity zone, and it's insulting. When we talk about birthright citizenship, Eileen Gu is a great example. She was born here, even though her parents were immigrants. Her allegiance doesn't lie here. And when the drafters of the 14th Amendment were creating it, they spoke about this. They said the parents' allegiance has to be to the United States. Why? So you don't end up with a bunch of Eileen Gus.
Exactly right. And even that name, Gu, there's something about that. I get this goo all over me. I don't know. I think that she's going to end up being on a panel with you on Abby Phillips' show within 2 months. Like she sounds like just willing. The exactly. God willing, yes. Yeah, the protagonist that you would need, because I'm sure you'd like to debate her. No question about it. And we've seen other Olympians as well, Brianna, that have spoken out mainly against ICE, against Trump, and this is done on foreign soil. You can make the argument. I'll play contrarian here, or a contrarian in this situation. Okay. They have a First Amendment right, and they should be able to speak out whatever they want to talk about. But I think when you're representing the United States on such a prestigious stage like the Olympics, perhaps that's something that you say for before or after, because obviously you're going to alienate half the country and therefore probably really screw up some endorsements you otherwise would have gotten.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to, what was it, Michael Jordan, Republicans buy sneakers too. The idea is that when people are in positions of being an entertainer or an athlete, you are there to entertain or perform, put on an athletic performance and, again, entertain people. Nobody wants to hear your political opinions because people on both sides of the aisle enjoy the same movies, enjoy the same athletes. And I think of Elvis Presley in the early 70s. He did an interview, and someone asked him for his thoughts on the Vietnam War, and he said, "Oh, ma'am, I'm just a singer. Like, go ask an expert." And yet so many people today have taken on the dual role of being whatever their position is, plus a political commentator. They should leave it not only to the political commentators, but especially when you're representing the greatest country in the world, keep your mouth shut. Even if you hate President Trump or the administration, there's a time and a place to do that, and it's not on the world stage.
Time and a place, precisely right. We're talking to Brianna Lyman of The Federalist. You're seeing these polls more and more now, Brianna. I mean, it's getting ridiculous that we can't do. I saw Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, on the aforementioned CNN show that we just briefly broached, where he listed off something like 20 top countries in the world from a GDP perspective, industrial perspective. In other words, advanced economies, places that obviously you cannot vote in unless you have a voter ID. Very simple. I mean, you make the argument over and over again. Democrats in the House voted against the SAVE Act, which is basically for voter ID when you go to vote, the most sacred thing we do as Americans. And they had to show ID, obviously, or scan an ID in order to get into the Capitol in order to vote. Or if you go to the DNC, you need an ID. Or when you rent a car, after you land at the DNC, you need an ID. And to fly to the DNC, you need to show ID when you get on a plane. I mean, obviously, you know this, I know this. We see another poll out today, 95% of Republicans favor voter ID. I don't know the 5% that don't. Would love to go bowling with those people sometime. But overall, it's 85% of total Americans, 71% of Democrats, an overwhelming number of Blacks, Latinos. Yet it seems like some Republicans, we all know about Democrats and why they oppose this, because they want illegals to vote as long as possible. And this obviously would make elections much more cleaner, therefore giving them a much lesser chance of winning them on a national or state level. Now, all that said, some Republicans seem kind of wobbly on this as well. What is going on there? There is no political downside to this yet. You know, Mitch McConnell, I don't heard him talking about this very much. And will Speaker Thune blow up the filibuster in order to get this thing passed?
Yeah, I don't think Thune is going to do that, and not because it's politically expedient for him and Republicans to not do it. In fact, if they're going to be under the impression that when Democrats take back control, whether it's this November, whether it's in 2 years, 4 years, that Democrats aren't going to nuke the filibuster to push through their own agenda, then Thune is more naive than I thought. And Chuck Schumer himself said it, maybe it was a year or two ago. He said, look, nothing will be off the table when we get back into power, and that included the filibuster. So Thune needs to understand, when Democrats take back power, they are going to unleash a whirlwind on Americans and Republicans. Second of all, like you mentioned, we're talking about legislation. This isn't even an 80-20 issue. It is a 90-10 issue. Average Americans think it is common sense legislation. And to your point, Democrats require ID to get into everywhere. And why do they do that? Because they want to make sure that the people coming into their DNC events, coming into these meetings, coming into the Capitol building are who they say they are, so that nobody else has their vote diluted or nobody else is impacted by someone who shouldn't be there. And the idea from the left right now that it's such a small problem, so we shouldn't even pay attention to it. 2 points. One, elections can be decided on the margins. Mariannette Miller Meeks won her 2020 election by 6 votes. Imagine if 6 fraudulent votes had been cast. That could have impacted the outcome of the election if 6 non-citizens cast a vote, right? The second thing is, we don't actually know for sure how many non-citizens have voted in past elections, because once you cast a ballot, That's it. It's gone. They don't know who cast this vote for Kamala, who cast that for Donald Trump. So there could be far more non-citizens who have voted than we even know of right now that have been caught.
That's the thing. It's not a matter of, oh, these are the people who have been caught. I would imagine it's probably pretty easy to vote in certain states. Anyway, I think I saw the stat, Brianna, we're talking to Brianna Lyman, that every state that Kamala won had this really curious common thread, which was there were all states that didn't require voter ID. So who knows to the extent of which this is happening. And that's the point. Every time a major party wins, a Republican wins an election, then it was stolen. So in 2016, Democrats said the Russians stole the election, literally hacked voting machines to change Hillary votes to Trump votes. Then obviously we know the way Trump and his supporters reacted to 2020. Many of those complaints seem to have more and more validity as we look back on it and the way Democrats have acted since. And then 2024, we still hear that maybe that election was stolen and whatever. If you do this, the less ambiguity you have. In other words, the way Florida and Ohio handle their elections, I have results, you have results by 10 o'clock that night. You have the winner. And if other states, we got to wait, Arizona, days, weeks, California, days, weeks, take away the ambiguity, people will trust elections more, and voter ID is one way to do that. Want to talk about one more thing here, Brianna, before we let you go, and thanks for joining us again. I have heard some things said about Trump and the Epstein files. Yeah, Trump's in the Epstein files. Of course he is. Almost everybody who has money or celebrity is in the Epstein files, including several cast members of The View, or I don't know, other presidents like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton for that matter. Now, all of that said, it's always been death by innuendo with Trump. In other words, if they just say Trump and Epstein enough, people will believe that somehow he did something nefarious, like, I don't know, engage in pedophilia, right? Or engage in carrying out the murders of teenage girls. And you say, Joe, come on, that's hyperbole. I haven't heard that. Well, I give you Ted Lieu, Congressman California, who had this to say today. This is cut number 5. Go.
So why are Republicans so interested in Bill and Hillary Clinton? It's because they're trying to distract from the fact that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files thousands and thousands of times. In those files, there's highly disturbing allegations of Donald Trump raping children.
No, there isn't.
Donald Trump threatening to kill children.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not a lawyer, Brianna. I don't know if you went to law school. I would sue like now. I mean, that is insane stuff that he raped children and threatened to murder. I mean, I've heard allegations before that have been almost completely all smoke, and totally all smoke, I should say, because as you know, and we've talked about, if Barack Obama and Joe Biden had this sort of material, Hillary Clinton for that matter, in 2016, they would have used it to take out Trump then before he could become president. And if they didn't use it then, they didn't have anything on him. All that said, Ted Lieu, how is he not at least censured or at least facing a major lawsuit right now? Because that's pretty effed up stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, why would the Republican-controlled House censure someone of the opposite party for saying something so egregious, right? That'd be crazy for them to do that. We also know that the allegations about Trump in relation to these things that Ted Lieu said, those have been thoroughly debunked by the FBI. They said that the witness was not credible in any capacity, effectively a crazy person, right? Last but not least, the only reason that Ted Lieu and so many Democrats have really jumped on this Epstein bandwagon, because again, remember, 4 years while Joe Biden was in office, they said not a peep about Epstein because it wasn't politically convenient, because we did know that Bill Clinton was involved in some capacity, right? The only reason they're focusing on it now is because they think that that is going to be the election issue that drags them across the finish line, because every other issue they fail on. They fail on immigration. They fail on the economy. You can't dispute that Donald Trump has definitely made the economy better. It's still not where we'd like it to be, but his efforts have worked. So they're hoping that the Epstein thing is going to be enough to sway those independent voters, or make Republicans not want to turn out, because they're going to feel like, oh, well, Republicans didn't do enough when they got elected with Epstein, so we're not going to turn out and vote for them again.
Well, great points. That you can't run on the economy. You certainly can't run on foreign policy. So what's left? Epstein. And it will never, ever go away, because let's face it. I mean, JFK, all these years later, is still hearing about a grassy knoll. And we still hear about Area 51 as far as aliens. And just once a conspiracy theory is out of the toothpaste tube, it's hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube. Anyway, Brianna, I leave you with toothpaste. You have excellent teeth. We've seen that on CNN and Fox News. So great job there. And thanks for joining us. And let's do this again sometime, my friend.
Thanks so much, Joe.
All right. Brianna Lyman actually likes my sense of humor, which is, kind of a hit or miss thing. But anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad week continues, because what's happening now after what happened in Munich, where she had some profoundly horrific answers to questions that, I'll put it this way, my 10-year-old, I swear to God this happened. We're in Key Largo for vacation. I was playing some clips as I was preparing for the show. I believe it was on Tuesday. And he said, "What was that about?" And then I explained to him, like, "Oh, that's somebody who wants to run for president, maybe." And she had trouble answering a question around what would happen if China were to invade Taiwan. My kid's in fourth grade, 10 years old, and he gave an infinitely better answer than AOC did, as far as like, well, we wouldn't go head to head with China, with our military and their military, because they have nuclear bombs and we have nuclear bombs, and engaging them directly could lead to World War III. He didn't say engaging, but I'm paraphrasing, right? It's like, I forget the way he put it exactly. And then he says, so we would give them weapons and we try to support them best we could, but that's not something where we would want to get into a war with them directly. Okay. For a 10-year-old, pretty damn good, right? Now, here is AOC's answer. And again, there were no uhs and ums that were coming from my son, Liam. They certainly were coming from AOC. This is cut whatever. Go.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. Yes. And I think what we are hoping for is that we
Elias.
never get to that point.
There were, again, 7 uhs and ums in the first 20 seconds of that particular answer. Not good at all. Here is J.D. Vance's reaction to AOC. And, well, let's just say he's enjoying this moment. Cut number 14, go.
President, very much for your leadership, but also for the kind words about me personally. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but then after the president said that I was so smart and that I didn't want to repeat our congresswoman who froze for 20 seconds over in Munich, now I'm tempted, sir, just to freeze for 20 seconds and just stare at the cameras, and maybe they'll say nice things about me like they do about Congresswoman Cortez. But I have 3 very brief messages. First of all,
just stare at the camera for 20 seconds. A JD Vance AOC debate would be so awesome on so many levels. And what's happening now, and what I mean is, like, the week is bad, because now all these clips are coming out of things that AOC has said in the past, which are profoundly disturbing or can be used in about 100 different campaign ads. And here is one in cut number 15. Go.
Whether it is a delay, whether it is saying no, I think about how all the people in Minneapolis refused to let ICE officers use the bathroom in their establishments.
Oh.
I mean, it's a small thing, but it matters. It matters.
Cutting off people from bathrooms matters.
It does
Federal
put
law
a
enforcement.
very real strain on them. They have to run around. They don't know what to do. Maybe they have to get their own facilities. And it starts to disorganize this apparatus that originally seemed very impenetrable.
Every single Democrat should be asked if they support Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's contention that there should be diversionary tactics used against federal law enforcement, that they should be prevented from using bathrooms while they're in staging areas trying to carry out the arrest of violent criminals in this country in here illegally, that every single illegal in this country should be taught how to avoid ICE, avoid being detained or arrested if ICE is coming for them. Again, they're here illegally. Therefore, ICE has the right to do that. Please, because if Republicans said such controversial things, every other Republican would have to answer for it, no question. One thing that Donald Trump doesn't have to answer for is his preference in, women against men. Ultimately, is Donald Trump a heterosexual? Well, of course he is, but he reminded us of this fact in cut number 16. Go.
It's always nice to be young and handsome. Doesn't mean we have to like you. I don't like young, handsome men. Women, I like. Men, no, I don't have any interest. Good. That's right. That's right. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job, too.
So what this reminds me of was the Al Smith dinner that happened in 2024, just a few weeks before the election. And Trump delivered a great line. While Kamala didn't show up, you remember, sent a horrible video with Molly Shannon. But Trump had the line of the night where he said, Democrats keep trying to tell me that there are more than two genders. And I didn't believe him until I met Tim Walz. And the place just erupted like you're at a Chris Rock concert. I mean, I swear to God, like a stand-up. So the guy, humor goes a long way in this business. It's not just about policy. It is about performance to a certain extent. And humor certainly is something that Donald Trump is not in short supply of. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This has been Concha at Night. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. on WABC in New York and on stations around the country, nationally syndicated. Until then, 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
The children of our nation know little to nothing about 9/11, but the Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute is righting this wrong by helping teachers educate kids in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their nonfiction first-person accounts are told through videos and the Discovering Heroes book series. The Institute offers full scripted curriculum units with background for teachers, a speakers bureau for classrooms, a mobile exhibit that's an interactive museum with 9/11 artifacts and FDNY guides. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.